That night, a sense of foreboding hung in the air. The house lay in a haunting stillness, a silence that constricted the breath. In the kitchen, amidst the remnants of dinner, I sensed his gaze upon me. My son stood in the doorway, a small silhouette against the dim light, his eyes piercing into mine with an intensity never witnessed before. He crossed the room, each step deliberate, and sat beside me, his presence a palpable tension. In a voice barely above a whisper, he uttered 3 words that shattered the tranquility and unveiled a door I was unprepared to confront. The evening unraveled, ordinary yet charged with an unspoken tension. Liam burst through the door, backpack hanging loosely, shoes strewn across the floor in chaotic disarray. He had grown distant, silent, lost in thought, yet I brushed it aside. He was, after all, maturing. Boys experience phases, don't they? It was ordinary. That's the story I spun for myself. Yet, an unsettling tension hung in the air that night. In the kitchen, I completed the dinner dishes, entranced by the relentless rhythm of scrubbing and rinsing. The refrigerator hummed a solitary sound, while the clinking plates in the sink echoed the relentless passage of time. Liam spoke not a single word after dinner, vanishing to his room the moment he finished. I felt the pull to reach out, to inquire about his day, yet the week's fatigue pressed heavily upon me. My mind drifted, caught between the dull tasks at hand and the haunting thoughts lurking beneath. Yet, in that moment, silence fell like a heavy curtain. It was not the serene calm that descended as day surrendered, when the house embraced a haunting stillness. No, this silence was suffocating, weighing heavily on my shoulders, as if I teetered on the brink of an unnamed revelation. A storm loomed, unsettling and imminent, just beyond the horizon. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and strode into the living room, anticipating the sight of Liam either lost in his video games or immersed in a book. The room lay shrouded in darkness, save for the piercing sun that blazed directly at me. In that instant, time stood still. My heart raced, a fierce pressure swelling within my chest. Liam, usually so reserved, had crossed the line this time. This was unlike anything before. The tension crackled in the air, his gaze heavy with unspoken words, pulling at my core. I stood on the precipice, teetering between the thrill of the fall and the instinct to retreat. Liam. My voice echoed, alien and unrecognizable. He paused, then moved toward me, each step measured and silent on the hardwood floor. His usual confidence had vanished. This Liam, the one standing before me, was a stranger. He stood there, distinct. As he sat beside me on the couch, the air thickened, the space between us shrinking, suffocating. He was nearer than ever, yet the warmth I craved was absent. It was not the soothing embrace of a mother and son, nor the effortless intimacy of our connection. It was extraordinary, otherwise, a chilling disturbance. I turned to face him, my heart pounding, a tempest of anxiety and curiosity raging within me. "What's happening, Liam?" I asked, attempting nonchalance, but my voice betrayed me, cracking slightly. He hesitated, and the silence hung heavy between us, a taut rope ready to snap. His gaze bore down on me, heavy with the gravity of a crucial decision. At last, after an agonizing wait, his voice broke the silence. His voice was a whisper, chilling, sending a shiver down my spine. "Mom," he started, and I could see the burden in his words, the struggle within him, a darkness that had lingered far too long. "What is it, my dear?" I whispered, trembling at the thought of the answer. He gazed at his hands, fingers trembling against the shirt's hem. He seemed to be summoning the courage to reveal the torment that had consumed him. The silence loomed, and in that instant, I understood that whatever he was about to say, I was unprepared for it. "Mom, I have something important to share." He finally met my gaze, and the intensity in his eyes sent a shiver down my spine. The turmoil of a teenager, lost in the chaos of unspoken words. No, this was something profound. His eyes were filled with dread of me, dread of the truth, dread of the secret he was on the brink of revealing. And then it struck me, this was beyond my readiness. My breath seized, and I found myself at the brink, gazing into a dark, unfathomable void. My son, the child I believed I understood, had transformed into someone unrecognizable. What he was about to say could shatter everything we had ever known. It held the power to transform us entirely. In the silence that enveloped them, he breathed out those 3 words, "Mother, I beg your forgiveness." The earth crumbled beneath my feet. My mind spun, overwhelmed by a torrent of emotions. Apologies? For what purpose? I apologize for my distance. Forgive me for closing you off. His words were a riddle, shrouded in ambiguity, heightening the tension and engulfing me in a storm of confusion. I yearned to confront him, to extract the truth, yet his gaze revealed that his words were merely a glimpse of the deeper turmoil beneath. My heart pounded, thoughts spiraling into chaos. The ensuing silence was suffocating. The weight of those 3 words crushed me, obliterating the fragile safety I had woven around myself and our family. Liam's apology was no mere confession. It marked the dawn of an overwhelming storm, one I was unprepared to confront. What are you saying, Liam? My voice quaked, yet I was powerless to silence it. Fear once buried in my chest surged forth, entwined with confusion and a profound, gnawing dread. With a quiver in his voice, he unleashed his words in a frantic rush, unable to contain them any longer. It was unintentional, yet undeniable, and there's no turning back. He halted, gaze averted, eyes scouring the empty room for what could never be found. The air was suffocating, a heavy weight pressing down. The walls closed in, the space between us dwindling with each heartbeat. Then, as if the world held its breath, the silence descended, more oppressive than ever. What Liam revealed, the hidden confession lurking beneath, was merely the prologue. This caught me off guard. The truth struck like lightning, and I was unprepared. Yet above all, I was unprepared to alter my perception of my son. And yet I felt it deep within. This moment, this night would shatter everything I believed I knew. My heart raced violently as I sat paralyzed on the couch, eyes locked on my son. His words, just 3, lingered in the air, heavy with an ungrasped truth. I had always taken pride in my role as a mother, convinced I understood my children better than anyone. But now the truth struck me hard. I was utterly mistaken. I barely knew him at all. Liam. My voice was a mere whisper. The word lingered on my tongue, a desperate cry for an elusive truth. He averted his eyes, staring at the ground, fingers twisting anxiously in his lap. I sensed his inner turmoil, grappling for the right words. It was evident that whatever he was about to utter would shatter our reality. I can't find the words, he whispered, his voice quaking. It was unintended, yet it unfolded. I can no longer feign ignorance. It happened. My mind spun wildly. 1,000 nightmarish visions raced through my mind, each more horrifying than the one before. What had he unleashed? What was his secret? I longed to reach for him, to embrace him, to whisper that all would be well, yet my hand stayed paralyzed at my side. Everything felt uncertain, and trust slipped through my fingers. Liam, I beg you, speak to me. My words now dripped with desperation, a silent plea. I demanded he reveal his truth, to lay bare his reasons. The silence loomed, an abyss that words could never bridge. He inhaled sharply, his hands trembling violently. It was after the camping trip last month, he began, his voice a mere whisper. There's more to the story than I revealed. I never intended to cause you pain, yet here we are. A knot tightened in my stomach. The fateful camping trip. He ventured out with friends and their families, among them his best friend's captivating older sister, Ava. I barely considered it then. I had trusted him, convinced he was merely a teenager navigating life, crafting memories. Yet now, with every word he uttered, the puzzle's pieces snapped together, revealing a truth I was unready to face. Mom, I don't know how to say this, but Ava kissed me, he said, his voice trembling with the gravity of his revelation. It was more than a fleeting kiss. It felt undeniably real. I let it happen. My breath seized in my throat. Ava, the older sister of his best friend. It eluded my grasp. Years passed with Ava in my life. She was kindness personified, a respectful presence, the daughter I never knew I needed. Yet this caught me completely off guard. My mind surged, struggling to grasp his words. Liam, my son, had pressed his lips to hers. And even worse, he let it happen. So, it was merely an experiment, wasn't it? I asked, voice trembling, clinging to the hope that this was merely a fleeting moment, something he would soon outgrow. Belief was my only salvation. Without it, madness awaited. Liam shook his head, guilt flooding his eyes. It was more than that, Mom. It felt extraordinary. Uncertainty consumed me, yet it haunted my thoughts relentlessly. Concerning her, it filled me with terror. I refused to endure that feeling. Silence engulfed me. I was at a loss for words. This new version of Liam left me bewildered. The boy I believed I knew intimately has unveiled a fragment of himself that feels utterly foreign. Now I must gather the shards of a reality, splintered like a mirror into 1,000 pieces. He pressed on, his voice dropping to a near-silent whisper. The thought haunts me still. I hesitated to share this with you, Mom. Disappointment was never my intention. But I could no longer contain it. His words crashed down on me, heavy and suffocating like a lead blanket. His confession was strikingly raw, a voice that pierced through his fear and shame. Though fury surged within me, a scream clawing at my throat, I understood that I must remain silent. He was my son, and in this moment I faced the choice that would define my role in his life. What sort of mother would I become? Liam, I finally succeeded, my voice quaking. Words escape me. This is overwhelming. I know, he whispered, tears brimming in his eyes. I never intended to cause you pain, Mom. I never intended to cause pain, yet I simply. She consumed my thoughts, leaving me in a whirlwind of uncertainty. Fear gripped me, his vulnerability pierced me like a blade. His pain pierced through me, his confusion swirling like a storm. He wasn't merely recounting a kiss. He was unveiling a fragment of his soul he couldn't grasp, a fragment of his being wrestled with identity, desires, and the tumultuous labyrinth of emotions that accompanied the journey of growing up. I inhaled sharply, seeking stability amid the storm of my feelings. Liam, this is overwhelming. You must grasp this crucial point. Your actions do not determine your identity. You are not without merit. This matters greatly. Relationships and boundaries, crucial and undeniable. Learn to honor your emotions and those of others. He nodded, tears cascading down his cheeks. I understand, Mom. I never intended to cause pain. I was lost, paralyzed by uncertainty. I drew him close, the gravity of his revelations pressing down on us both. He remained my son, the same child I once cradled, the same boy who had transformed into a stranger before my eyes. In that instant, as I embraced him, I realized this was our pivotal moment. You're bound to falter, Liam, I whispered, my voice trembling. Yet I will not abandon you. We will unravel this together. You're never alone. He leaned into me, his body shaking with intensity. Forgive me, Mother. I'm at a loss for a solution. I kissed the top of his head, my heart weighed down by the realization that our relationship had irrevocably changed. As I held him, a single truth pierced through the uncertainty. We would confront this together. It would be a struggle, but we would carve our path through the darkness. This could be the defining moment of his transformation. Don't fix anything now, Liam, I urged gently. One step at a time we shall proceed. Promise me you'll always be truthful, regardless of the difficulty. I swear, Mom. His voice trembled with raw emotion, leaving me to question if he grasped the weight of his promise. We had entered a new chapter, where honesty and understanding would forge the path ahead. As we sat together, his confession hung in the air like a storm cloud, and I grasped a crucial truth. The truth was harsh, the journey would be excruciating. Yet this was my son. As his mother, I was bound to support, guide, and love him through every storm. The road ahead loomed uncertain, yet together we would confront it, forged stronger than ever. The room was a prison, the air heavy with unspoken words. Liam sat beside me, yet it felt like an ocean lay between us. His confession, those 3 words haunted my thoughts, a relentless echo in the silence. Our lips met in a fleeting moment. A part of me yearned to scream, to strike back, to demand how this had come to be, why it had unfolded. Yet I understood, buried within, that the fury would serve no purpose. Confusion, hurt, betrayal. Each emotion twisted in my chest, a knot I couldn't unravel. I stared at him, grappling with the weight of my newfound knowledge. My son, my precious, naive son, had kissed someone. Someone extraordinary. Ava. I had known Ava since her childhood, witnessing her transformation into the person she is today. She was family, and then in an instant everything turned dark. It was more than a kiss. It marked the dawn of a tangled web, elusive and beyond my understanding. Why must it be so? I asked, the word escaping my lips before I could halt it. Why didn't you reveal this earlier? Why the delay? Liam's eyes flickered around the room, evading my gaze. He trembled, fingers clenched, knuckles pale as fear gripped him. I never meant to hurt you, Mom, he whispered, his voice trembling. I feared letting you down. At first I was oblivious to its meaning, Yet it gnawed at me, hiding it felt utterly wrong. The fragility in his voice struck me with unexpected force. It was more than guilt that echoed in my ears. It was a disgrace. Nothing terrified me more than that. I recognized that look, a reflection of my own struggles, a confrontation with the hardest truths within me. I sank into the couch, thoughts swirling like a storm. What comes next? The question echoed in my mind, relentless and haunting. He was my son, my child, and yet, in this moment, he felt like a stranger. I was blind to his transformation. The boy I once knew, the one who sought my counsel and chuckled at my silly jokes, has vanished, leaving behind a stranger I cannot comprehend. A fragment of my soul yearned for the clarity of yesteryears, when lines were drawn sharply, and I could cling to the comforting delusion that all was well. Yet everything felt wrong now. Everything had changed forever. I extended my hand, trembling above his, caught in a moment of uncertainty. I yearned to soothe him, to promise that all would be well, yet deep down I recognized the truth. It was a deception. It would be unacceptable. Not yet. Countless words lingered in silence and wounds festered, yearning for closure. Do you feel remorse? The question erupted, raw and instinctive. Uncertainty clouded my desires for his words. A part of me craved his confession, a revelation that it was merely a fleeting lapse, nothing deeper. Yet, beneath the surface, I understood the truth was far more complex. Relationships, emotions, feelings, they defied such simplicity. Perhaps this was not about regret at all. Perhaps this was his quest for identity. Liam hesitated, his gaze drifting into the void. I don't know, he whispered, his voice barely breaking the silence. Was it a blunder? Or a moment of revelation about my true self? His words struck me like a thunderclap, awakening to a profound truth within. What does that signify? Could this be the dawn of a greater saga? A new facet of himself rising, one he wasn't prepared to confront. Was this merely a fleeting moment, destined to vanish as swiftly as it appeared? I gazed at him, my heart heavy with the weight of untold secrets waiting to be revealed. I longed to shield him, to guard him against my past mistakes, yet I realized that was no longer my role. He had transformed, no longer the little boy reliant on my every word. He was transforming into a new being, driven by his own desires, battling his own struggles, forging his own identity. My stomach twisted in knots. What comes next, Liam? What unfolds next? His gaze met mine, and for an instant I glimpsed the boy I once knew, the one still yearning for his mother. The uncertainty in his eyes was unmistakable. I don't know, he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. The future is uncertain, but the facade can no longer hold. It haunts me, impossible to erase. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat choking my words. Is it possible to erase it from memory? The thought struck like lightning, shocking and surreal. How could I ever erase the memory of my son crossing an unseen line? How could I ever feign normalcy after those words pierced the silence? Liam, I can't fix this, I whispered, my voice trembling. I can't find a way to make this right. I long to support you, yet I am lost in the chaos of it all. Ava will never be the same in my eyes. The anguish in his eyes intensified, revealing the torment consuming him from within. He felt the pain as well, my anger, my fear, my shock, each one a raw, undeniable truth. Yet they failed to eclipse the truth. My son was in pain as well. I never meant to hurt her, he whispered, his voice heavy with anguish. I never intended to cause pain, least of all to you. This was never my intention. His regret pierced my heart with relentless force. He was as lost as I was, grappling with the weight of his choices, battling emotions he dared not confront. Here I sat, his mother, grappling with the chaos of it all. Perhaps, just perhaps, that held the answer. I need not decipher it at this moment. I didn't need to possess all the answers. I inhaled sharply, seeking to regain my composure. Liam, we will conquer this together. Answers elude me. Yet I stand by your side. We will unravel this, united. He gazed at me, his eyes a tempest of relief and uncertainty. Are you truly saying that? I nodded, my voice a whisper yet resolute. Indeed. We will conquer this challenge. Yet, time is a relentless companion. It will sting. Together we shall prevail. In that moment, a revelation struck me. Amidst the pain, the uncertainty, and the fear, growth emerged. For us both. We didn't need all the answers immediately. For the first time in ages, we confronted this uncertainty side by side. Silence reigned in the days that followed, heavy and profound. Liam and I spoke less, yet in those fleeting words, an unspoken understanding lingered between us. The future loomed uncertain, yet I embraced the truth. Healing could not be hurried. Time is needed, time for us to process, to forgive, to mend the shattered pieces. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I watched my son on the porch, lost in thought. His face was free of confusion, yet the pain still lingered, haunting the depths of his eyes. I sat beside him, our shoulders barely touching, a spark of tension in the air. Silence enveloped us, yet the comfort in that stillness spoke volumes. "You're not alone," I whispered, the words escaping like a solemn vow. Liam hesitated, yet his silence spoke volumes. His hand gripped mine, and in that fleeting moment we lingered in silence, allowing the heavy burden of recent days to rest upon us. Fell short of perfection. It was a struggle. Yet we stood on the brink of healing, and that was sufficient for the moment. In that instant I understood that despite the agony and doubt, our connection could never shatter. It would bend, it would stretch, yet it would never break.